welcome in, guys. We are live with episode 2 of Ball Talk with Jake, Dino Dialogue, and Jeremy. How you guys doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good. Ready to talk some football.
Yeah, I'm trying to survive the heat in PA. It was bad today. Work was 99 degrees at the stadium today. It was bad.
And they cancel games because of heat. Have they done that? I was wondering that because
I wish
it has been getting hot. I mean, think about playing out in Arizona or something. Ooh.
Yeah, that's bad. Ugh. Yeah, top it off, we got swept by the Cubs, so that's a great way to end the weekend. But good thing we're talking about football, not baseball. Jump right into the news and notes. Unfortunate news today for Houston Texans rookie wide receiver John Metchie released a statement saying that he was diagnosed with leukemia and that he will most likely miss his upcoming rookie year. I'm not really a doctor or anything. I mean, I know what it is and all that stuff, and I just thoughts and prayers for John Metchie and everyone around the organization and his family. Such an unfortunate start to his young, bright career. Anything for you guys?
Just a reminder, these players on your pretend football team are real human beings, and don't ever be that guy that sends hate mail to these guys. They're just doing their job and have fun. It's supposed to be fun. So but obviously, we wish the best for John Metchie, and it does sound like it's one of the most curable forms of leukemia. So it does look like hopefully he'll move past this, and obviously we're all thinking of him.
Yes. And second on our news is Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back Leonard Fournette has shown up to camp looking obese. That fun choice of words there. Some would say fat, some would say out of shape. I like to say obese. I forget the exact number he weighed in at, but it was an eye-opening number. Last year he weighed around 228 pounds. I think he weighed in around like 255, 260.
Yeah, it was pushing 260.
260? Yikes. That's
299 was the number I heard.
Yeah, 299.
I think so. All right under 300.
Yeah. Does this worry you guys at all? Like Leonard Fournette, he was ADP around like late second, early third rounds. Does this worry you guys? They had the rookie Rachaad White waiting for an opportunity behind him, but I'm not really worried yet. If it keeps up the reports that he's not looking good in camp and he's out of shape, then I'll be a little worried. But for now, I'm buying the dip on Fournette, taking him still in the third. If I can get him later in the third, I'll absolutely scoop him up there. The only thing I've been seeing is I've been more inclined to take Rachaad White on a flyer late in drafts, but I'm not really worried about this. Any of you guys are?
No, I'd say it does help Rachaad White's value, but it doesn't hurt Fournette's value, and I'll take Fournette all day if he slides. Yeah. Tom Brady's running back, I'll take him all day.
Yeah, I wasn't in on, even before these reports, I wasn't in on the Fournette in the second. Back then, I think he was started ahead of Barkley, and now I think Barkley's overtaken him since this news. But I was taking Barkley ahead of him even then, and it doesn't really worry me too much. But White, if he has an opportunity, if he's out of shape and he gets injured because he's out of shape, we don't know what's going to happen. But I'm definitely interested in Rachaad White, especially at cost. For Fournette, I'll probably take him late third. I probably won't have him. I probably won't get him. But if he's there, I'd take him. Good offense. He's going to score touchdowns. He's going to catch passes as long as he's on the field.
That Tampa Bay running back position is one of the spots in fantasy football. It's hard to guarantee things, but it is guaranteed that spot will produce fantasy value. As long as Tom Brady's on the field, a running back will be getting goal line touches, will be getting check down targets. So that spot is guaranteed fantasy value. It's just, will it be Fournette for 3 downs? Will it be Rachaad White 50-50 split? We'll see.
I do want to say one thing about Rachaad White is that he is a fantastic pass catcher. So if there's any kind of chemistry there with Brady, look out. He could.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you saw what Fournette did, and he's never been seen as a specialist. Definitely capable, but not like not a 100 target guy that you think of. But man, Rachaad White could be really special, and his upside is ridiculous. He's one of my favorite late round running backs. If you want to go 0 RB or hero RB and get someone late, Rachaad White's a great pick.
For sure, Rachaad White could be a league winner this year if Fournette goes down. Yeah, for sure. Also about Rachaad White, shout out to Rachaad White for coming on the Face Off Mental Health Podathon. It was great listening into him, and he's got that dog in him. He's got a chip on his shoulder from what I heard. So it'll be interesting to watch him and see him compete with Fournette. Today's episode, we're going to go mostly over quarterbacks. We took a ranking and took the average and our consensus of our top 20 quarterbacks. We'll be going from 15 down. We were agreed on some of these guys and around the same tier, but differences in ADPs and who would you guys prefer. So we'll start at 15. 15th on our list was Raiders quarterback Derek Carr. Derek Carr has an ADP of around 104, which would be, what is that? That's round 9, middle of round 9. What's your guys' outlook on Derek Carr this year?
I'd say if you're not taking top quarterbacks, which would I go for, I don't usually take the top guys. Derek Carr's a great guy to get in the 10th, 11th round, depending on which draft you're in. How many times quarterbacks fall, and I think he's a great option of those second, third tier quarterbacks that can still get you 20 to 25 points a game with his upgraded targets.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I really like Carr. Obviously, he's got the weapons. We're talking 4-point passing touchdown, so doesn't have the rushing upside as some of these other guys that are in this tier. For me, I think it's useful to talk about this last this last group as a tier. And you have these older quarterbacks like Carr, Cousins, and Rodgers that don't really offer that rushing upside, but they all outside of Rodgers, but I think Carr and Cousins both of them could have really big touchdown years, like 40 plus touchdowns, 45 touchdowns even. And if that happens, just with the weapons around them and with Kirk Cousins, the new offense. So I like him at his cost. He's probably my favorite. I've been seeing Rodgers slip past this group actually, pretty far back in best ball drafts, but I think he's a really good pick, especially for like a home league, just 12-team league. And if you want to just wait for quarterback and then just take 2 of these guys, I think it's a good plan. Yeah. This 12 through 15 group.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I tend to wait on quarterbacks. I don't think the early quarterback ADP is worth it. I like a guy like Derek Carr, pairing him with like a Rodgers. You said 2 late round quarterbacks and then just play the matchups weekly. And sometimes with these late round guys, especially with the younger guys that we'll talk about in a bit, some of them tend to pop and you find a weekly starter, a top 5 quarterback in these late rounds. And Derek Carr, do you guys think Derek Carr has that ceiling in him to be a top 5, top 8, maybe top 5 quarterback this year?
Yeah, I think so. I have him personally higher than both of you guys. I'm a little higher than Derek Carr, but when we're just adding Devontae Adams, I mean, you got to put him higher than what he was last year. And I can see him easily being top 8 with around those guys at Stafford, Brady, Burrow, Prescott. But if you can get him a few rounds later than those guys, I just think it's totally worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at he has a really low touchdown rate for his career, and you could say, okay, that's predictive. He's not going to score a lot. He's not going to throw for a lot of touchdowns. But then you think about the weapons he has around him, and then this new offense that's coming in that could be very exciting. And you look at not to say that Derek Carr is Tom Brady, but last year, the last 2 years in New England, have not been kind of representative of who Josh McDaniels is as an offensive coordinator, because you got, sorry, all respect to Cam Newton, but a dusty Cam Newton, and then Mac Jones, who only threw 3 passes in one game or something, right? I mean, it was in the win in Buffalo, but they clearly didn't trust this guy and just say, here you go, here's the offense. But when he had Brady, when he had a capable quarterback, and again, not comparing the two players, but it's the same offense, I think that he's going to be more likely to be throwing a lot like he did those last years with Brady. But I don't know. I think he does have the top 5 upside in 6-point passing touchdowns. I mean, sure, if he wins MVP, yeah, and I think that is in the range of outcomes for him. I haven't checked his odds, but I think he definitely has top 5 upside. He's plus 3,300 right now for MVP odds, but he has that upside, and you can get him late.
Yeah. Like you said, the low touchdown rate is the only thing that scares me for his chances to be a top end QB1 every week. Like you said, adding Devontae Adams and getting back a healthy Darren Waller and having this full team at full health. I mean, last year at the end of the year, he was working he had no Darren Waller the second half of the year. Hunter Renfrow was his go-to guy, and Hunter Renfrow is a great receiver, but if Hunter Renfrow is your number one option in an offense, you're not really looking too solid for a passing attack. I felt like the emergence of Zay Jones last year was really nice, helped Derek Carr, but adding Devontae Adams and getting back Darren Waller, I think there will be an uptick in his touchdowns. He only had 23 touchdowns last year. I'm thinking he'll get more than what he got in 2020, which was 27. I have him projected around probably around 30, 31, around there. I would put his over under at 30 and a half. He'll get some of the he'll get yardage. Last year throwing for 4,800 yards. So
yeah,
it's all about the touchdowns and what they want to do. I don't know if they want to be a run first team or they got Jacobs. They're going to run him into the ground. It looks like declining his option, but I don't know if he has that top 5 upside for me, like some of these other guys going around him, but he's more of a safer play, I would say.
Yeah, he's going to have a solid passing floor. Real quick with Derek Carr, these, just to put it in perspective, these are his stats for 2021. He was 5th in passing yards. He was 8th yards per attempt. He was 2nd in the 20-plus yard passes, 5th in 40-plus yard passes. So he's getting the ball down the field. He's just 21st in touchdown percentage. But he's adding, you look at what the Raiders did in the offseason, extending Renfrow. I added Adams. They improved their offensive line. And Adams averages 11 touchdowns per 17 games for his career. And he had a really rough start, if you remember. So that's including those years. I think, if you add Adams, Carr's going to have that touchdown percentage is going to go up. And I'm willing to buy.
Yeah, for sure. And with those stats of him being in the top, I think you said 5 of throwing pretty far down the field, you think that would lead to more touchdowns with more of those boom plays. So maybe that's like a touchdown positive touchdown regression coming up with Derek Carr. Maybe he gets some more touchdowns there. That would be nice. 14, we have Trey Lance, the most likely starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers in that Shanahan offense. Obviously, the upside is amazing. He could be a top 5 quarterback this year in fantasy if everything clicks. He's got that rushing upside. He turned the world on fire last season when he came in and scored 20 points in just a half of football, replacing Garoppolo. I personally really like Trey Lance this year, but the quarterback position is so deep. I think I had him ranked as I have him at 13, so one spot ahead of our consensus, but I could easily see him skyrocketing into the top 6 or 7 quarterbacks with his rushing upside. What do you guys think of Trey Lance this year?
I actually have Trey Lance lower than you guys. However, I am very big on Trey Lance. I had him at QB 17, although he does have that QB 10 upside with his rushing, and you don't know who he is. He's really a question mark. I think he kind of fills that Patrick Mahomes type look with Alex Smith starting his first year, sitting behind him, behind an experienced quarterback who also did really well in the past season. So just like Garoppolo, him supposedly should be stepping in week 1, we're assuming. And if so, I'd buy Trey Lance at his around 10th, 11th mark all day, 10th, 11th round.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's at the top of this tier for me. After Stafford, Brady, Wilson, those guys I think are safer, and I wouldn't blame anyone that wanted to take Lance ahead of Stafford even. But his rushing upside is immense, and he's going to be the starting quarterback. He's going to get the chance. Now, if he struggles, could they bring Garoppolo in? Maybe, but that doesn't concern me at all. That's not even coming into Garoppolo, whether he's in San Francisco, whether he's not. It doesn't matter to me. But I really like Lance's rushing upside, and he's similar to Justin Fields, and I like Fields better, but just because of the cost. I feel like Fields is just a cheaper version, and obviously the Bears offense is not going to be the San Francisco offense, but I think the Bears offense could maybe throw more. It's possible, just because they're going to have to. But I like Lance especially 4-point passing touchdown, great upside, good value pick. But there are Lance stands that will take him very, very early. So if you want to reach on him, that's fine. I never really like reaching for a quarterback in one QB. I usually don't end up with him because there are so many guys that love Trey Lance, and I do too. I have drafted him, but I'm not sure at cost.
Yeah, for sure. I think in this Shanahan-led offense, one thing that was big for me was I was on the fence about Lance for this upcoming season until they got Debo confirmed to come back. That really, I think, will help him cement himself as a QB1 this year, or just outside of it. He's got the weapons to succeed, and Shanahan has tailored his offenses to just be the most efficient and like one of the more easy to manage systems. I mean, he had Garoppolo, who's he's a game manager. That's what he is. And he was able to compete and win games with that offense. I mean, they have a stacked supporting cast around the quarterback with Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, and their running back by committee with the Mitchell and all the backs they had last season. I really like Trey Lance, especially because that upside. And I think it'll be something to look out for with this is like one of the first quarterbacks that Shanahan has had that has mobility. I mean, he's had Matt Ryan, he's had Garoppolo. These guys don't really move. Trey Lance can run out and escape from the pocket, run on designed runs, do the RPO, the read options. I think that alone will guarantee like 5 or 6 points a game. So I really like the upside for Trey Lance if he can start really slinging the ball.
He could be their leading rusher. He really could. If you think about like how they spread out the running back touches, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up like around 1,000 yards at the end of the season, and these running backs are at like 800, 700, 800 apiece. I mean, I don't think it's very likely, but it could happen. I got a question for you guys. I think similar kind of players, archetypes for fantasy are we have Justin Fields, Trey Lance, the mystery box. We don't know what he is, but he could maybe even be better than these guys. And then Jalen Hurts, this tier kind of below Lamar for rushing quarterbacks. Out of those three guys, Hurts, Lance, and Fields, who has the most rushing yards at the end of the season? What do you think?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I say Hurts.
Hurts?
I'm tempted to say Hurts, but I think I'm going to say Trey Lance because if you look at it, Elijah Mitchell, one injury away from Elijah Mitchell to having the 49ers leading rushers, maybe a quarterback and receiver with Lance and Debo. That obviously has probably never been done before. But the Eagles, if you look at them, they led the league in rushing attempts and rushing yards last year. Now that a lot of that is due to Hurts because he led the team in rushing yards. He was neck and neck with Sanders, but Sanders was hurt a lot of the season last year, missing games here and there, coming out in the second quarter, not returning, all that. Having Sanders healthy, I think they'll lean on him more, especially because they're undecided about giving him an extension. I would say my ranking would go Lance with the most rushing yards, then Fields, and then Hurts. What about you, Jake?
This is tough for me. I think Hurts should be the favorite, but just to be different, after all, I'm wearing the Cutler jersey today. I'll go with Justin Fields because that Bears offensive line is as a Bears fan, I'll just hold my tongue, but they're not very good. And he's going to be running for his life a lot. They don't have great options in the receiving area. So I could see him just having a ton of rushing attempts out of necessity. And they're going to be throwing because they'll likely be down in a lot of games. So I'll go Fields and then Lance and then actually Hurts because Hurts, they added weapons in the as a wide receiver with A.J. Brown. I think he will try to prove himself more as a passer this year. But I think he'll still and by the way, he did lead the Eagles. You're talking there. I looked it up. He had 784 yards last year. Miles Sanders was second with 30 fewer at 754.
Yeah. And that's with Sanders missing a couple games and leaving a couple games. I think Sanders will get a lot more touches this year. Next on our list, Sanders.
Yeah,
you're one of the very few who like Sanders.
You can get him in the 7th round. I don't mind that. Any starting running back I can get in the 7th round, sign me up. I don't care.
Fair enough. We'll get into that next episode. But now we're doing quarterbacks. 13. Our consensus was Minnesota Vikings quarterback, Jeremy's MVP candidate for years, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. He was going around with an ADP of 108. So that 9th, 10th round area, another solid quarterback, really good for 6-point touchdown leagues. He'll get his touchdowns. No rushing upside at all, but he'll get the yardage and touchdowns. So he's a very safe, low-end QB1, high-end QB2. Pair him with Lance, and that would make a great combo for late-round quarterbacks. What do you guys think of Kirk Cousins? Does he have that upside to be top 10 this year, do you think?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So as a Vikings fan, very excited for this year. Revamped offense with our new head coach, Kevin O'Connell. We got an undoubted top 3 receiver, Justin Jefferson, healthy Adam Thielen coming back, healthy Irv Smith coming back, top 5 running back, improved offensive line. I'm bullish every year on this team, and it always hits me in the gut because we never perform as well as I think. But, hey, I'm riding it again. I'm very confident in Kirk Cousins this year. And, hey, at 40-1 MVP odds, take it.
Love it. I love it. I'm with you. I'm right there with you, Coop. This offense is going to be a lot of fun. People are going to, maybe your more casual fantasy player might be thinking, oh, it's just a Zimmer offense. Maybe they didn't even hear about the new coach. But I think Kevin O'Connell is going to bring a lot of fun things to that offense, and they've already been talking about it. You hear the beat reports of how much they're going to pass, and using Dalvin Cook in the passing game. And like you said, Justin Jefferson, he's my wide receiver 1 right now. Kirk Cousins got great weapons. He's done it before. And like you said, great odds for MVP and a good pick. And I do like pairing Lance with one of these guys, to pair Lance with Rodgers or Cousins or Carr. I think that's a really nice way to do it if you're in that home league with a maybe six-man bench. You can carry 2 quarterbacks and be all right, I think.
Yeah. I like Kirk Cousins as a safe option here. Like you said, I'd pair him with someone with higher upside like a Lance or a Fields or even a Trevor Lawrence. I I think it's just the same old story. Kirk Cousins is who he is. He's not going to give you any rushing upside. You'll be lucky for him to crack 100 yards on the year.
He does score touchdowns every once in a while. He has had some good, but that was earlier in his career.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's been recently, but he's been pretty good in terms of rushing touchdowns.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys that every once in a while.
Brady sneak in him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I think he'll come around with around the same stat line as he usually does, around 42 to 43, 4,400 passing yards, around 33 to 36 touchdowns, probably 7 to 10 interceptions. I feel like he'll just come around with the same stuff, and he'll give you some weeks where he goes off for 330 and 4 touchdowns, and you'll be happy with that in fantasy. But then he'll have that couple weeks in a row where he just gets 16, 17, 15 points, where it's not horrible. Points are points. He'll never burn you, but I don't think Kirk Cousins is that guy to take your team over the top like a Trey Lance can, or a Derek Carr might be able to, or some of these other guys who have a chance to do that. So that's why I say he's more of a safe play. I don't hate him in fantasy this year with his ADP, but I don't see the MVP upside for Kirk.
I want to retract my comment about him scoring touchdowns. His last 3 years in Washington, he scored basically 4.5 per year. He scored 5, 4, and 4. But then since he's been in Minnesota, it's been 1 a year, and that's it. So not going to score a lot of rushing touchdowns. I'll retract that. I was wrong.
All right, we'll move on to our number 12 guy, back-to-back MVP, Mr. Green Bay Aaron Rodgers. He's definitely ripped your guys' hearts out multiple times, being Vikings and Bears fans. Me, I'm lucky. I don't have to play him that often. Back-to-back MVP, loses his number one go-to guy, Devontae Adams, to the Raiders. They bring in Christian Watson. Not many options for the passing game. It's Watson, Lazard. They get Tunyon back. That'll be good for touchdowns, and then they're going to rely on that two-headed monster with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. It seems like they will. Does Rodgers scare any of you guys this year in fantasy?
Yeah, I personally don't really want him. I think he's probably a top 3 quarterback for sure. As being a Vikings fan, seeing him perform so many years and hurting us so many years. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but in fantasy, he's just not always done it as well as you would expect or just would think, since he's won back-to-back MVPs. And with losing Devontae Adams now and just leaning on the two backs with the Jones-Dillon combo, I'm just fading Aaron Rodgers in fantasy. Still think he's one of the best quarterbacks, but in fantasy perspective, just doesn't wow me.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily worried. I'm not drafting a lot of Aaron Rodgers. I really want to talk about his tattoo more than anything, but he like Coop had said, he has these years that he's a top 3, top 5 guy, but then he has these years where he's flirting with 12, 13, that range. So I am a little worried losing Adams. He's going to get Tunyon back, and I think it's more about those weapons you can get at value. If you really like Rodgers, you should be drafting all the Green Bay pass catchers. My concern is that Rodgers is a really good real life quarterback. Totally lockstep with Coop there. I think he's among the best of all time, really. But he for fantasy, it doesn't always translate. He's really good because he's so efficient, never turns the ball over. But in fantasy, you just want more volume. You'd rather have and he can turn on that gunslinger mode, but he tends to be more of a game manager. I don't mean that I'm going to let the rest of my team win, but the way he plays the game, he manages the clock management that he does, the way he changes the plays, and he's not afraid to run the ball. And they've got A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, and that's my concern, is if they just turn into a run heavy team, And I think Rodgers would be fine with that as long as they win. I think at this point, he just wants to win Super Bowls. He's not worried about MVPs at this point. So I don't end up drafting him, but he does have upside, and he's safe. He's safe, I think.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said there, Jake. I view him as more now as a he's just going out there to win games. He doesn't really care about putting up. His stats will come. He's that good. His stats will come when he's just out there trying to win games. He's probably the best quarterback in the league right now, I would say. But for fantasy wise, I mean, I wouldn't hate to have him on my team. I would love to have. He's right around these guys for me. But with his earlier round 8, round 9 ADP, I'd rather go with a guy like Kirk Cousins or Trey Lance, higher upside guys. I mean, Rodgers has higher upside than Cousins, but I have him and Cousins around the same. I have Rodgers a little higher, so I prefer Rodgers. But with the ADP, I'd rather Cousins. But the pass catch.
Who was the low man on him?
On Rodgers?
Yeah.
It was.
Looks like Coop.
Jeremy has him at 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good man, Coop.
And but like you said, Jake, I think at this point in his career, Rodgers is more focused on winning games than putting up a stat line. So I don't really like Rodgers at his ADP this year, especially if Adams was there, it would be a different story, but he's not. And they didn't replace him with anyone near his level or even close to his level. So a lot of uncertainty. I think there'll be a run-first offense. So I will definitely be fading Aaron Rodgers at his ADP. Coming in at number 11 on our quarterbacks was Super Bowl winning quarterback Matthew Stafford. I think he finished. I forget what it was, but he was definitely a top 5 quarterback last year. I owned him, and he was solid. What do you guys think of Matthew Stafford this year, winning the Super Bowl and being top 5? Why do we have him down here at 11? That seems a little odd, does it not?
Well, I did not contribute to that, as I have him as my QB6 overall. As I checked last year, he was a QB6, just 3 points behind being in the top 5. I have been a huge Matt Stafford advocate his whole career. Happy to see him succeed on the Rams. I'm happy they won the Super Bowl, and I'm just buying heavy on Matthew Stafford. If he's like one of the low-end starting quarterbacks in terms of a 12-team league, and you can get him in the 9th, 10th round, whatever it may be, it is just such a steal. I don't know why anyone wouldn't do it.
His ADP has him 83rd overall, so going late round 7, early round 8.
Makes no sense.
I think one of the things that's lost in all this, he had such a great year last year. That was his first year with the Rams. He could be, theoretically better this year, just getting to know the offense a little more. As the weapons, Cam Akers, Allen Robinson, adding those guys to the mix, he could. And Akers is a really good pass catcher. He really has impressive hands. He hasn't really been used like that in the NFL, but he showed that in college. Anyways, I think Stafford, you have to have him down here just because he doesn't offer the same upside as some of those other guys. You look at Lamar's injury. Russell Wilson had an injury and a down year at that. After that, you can see he was kind of playing hurt. I don't have any problem. Could he be top 5 this year? Yeah. But I think the other guys offer upside if they play 17 games. And the quarterback position, you're not really you want to swing for the fences. And I feel like Stafford's that safe guy that I really don't want. I'll take him again and pair him with somebody. But as my only quarterback, yeah, it's fine. But personally, I'd rather swing for the fences with a mobile quarterback and 4-point passing touchdown.
Yeah, I like Stafford this year. Like you said, it's his second year in the offense. He can only probably get better. And having him last year, he was a steal in the late rounds. The only thing that I feel like is a little at the end of the year in the offseason when you're looking back at rankings, you'll look at Stafford and you'll be like, oh, he was QB 5 or 6, whatever he was. You're like, oh, he must have been awesome. League winner for his ADP. He was great a lot of the time, but then he had games where he was very inconsistent and burned you with some of his interceptions. He
threw a lot of picks, yeah.
A lot of picks. I mean, if he was your quarterback in the playoffs, I'm sorry, you didn't win. So a lot of players didn't win having Stafford. In the playoffs, he put up 5 against Minnesota in week 6. He threw 3 interceptions. And he threw 2 picks against Baltimore, only scoring 2 touchdowns. So that was 10 points. And then he throws 2 more if you're playing in the last week. He threw 2 more there. So he threw an insane amount of picks for being QB5. And then he burned you on a lot of weeks. Some weeks he'll score you 25, 27, 30 points, putting up 4 touchdowns and 350 yards. But just as many weeks he won you the week, he lost you a bunch of weeks, putting up 10, putting up 6. He had 2 weeks, 4 weeks below 10 points. That'll kill you. That'll kill you. I mean, a lot of these guys around this range, if you want to have Stafford being that top 5 quarterback like he finished, you're going to need him to be more consistent, at least give you a baseline of 16. And I mean, I feel confident that I'm getting at least 16 from Stafford every game. But if those picks continue, I think your team could be in some trouble, and it'll be like I think he'd be a risky play because you never know what you're going to get with Stafford at that point. But this year, going into year 2, I think the picks will go down maybe by half, getting comfortable with the offense, having a full off season again, adding Allen Robinson. Hopefully that'll contribute. He lost Robert Woods early on in the year. That was like that safety blanket when if Cup wasn't open, which wasn't very often last year. But I like Stafford, but I just don't like him at his ADP because of that risk and inconsistency. Going to our 10th quarterback, we have in the top 10, Russell Wilson comes in at number 10, traded to the Denver Broncos. Amazing receiving core around him, great running backs behind him. What do you guys think of Russell Wilson this year? Are you guys, let's ride Russell Wilson?
Yeah, let's ride him. Why not? And he's got a pretty similar offense, you'd imagine, to what he had in Seattle. He was a top 10 quarterback every year since his rookie year before last year, with just a lot of injuries, the team going down south. I mean, really he's been top 10 pretty much his whole entire career. And he gets a whole new offense, a lot of weapons, Sutton, Judy, your guy, Albert O. He's got great running attacks, 1-2 punch with Javonte and Gordon. Just the whole offense going to spread out. And yeah, he might have those weeks, just like you said, with Stafford, which, he'll have those occasional 11, 12-point games, which can hurt you. But, I mean, overall, he'll be a pretty good quarterback. And if he gets a good matchup, if you ride those 2 quarterback systems, he gets a good matchup, he could pay off very well.
Yeah, he doesn't rush as much anymore. And I think that will remain the same. But I think he's going to, I think he has 5,000 yard upside, at least 5,000 total yards. If you add in the rushing too, and you look at the weapons around him, they could definitely score a bunch of points, especially in that division. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I have him at QB8, so I think I'm the high man on him, and he's in that second tier of quarterbacks that I really like. I struggle ranking him and Dak Prescott. I think they're very close, but I'm excited. But there is an element of mystery there with Denver, the new offense. What's it going to look like? So that you have to kind of think about, okay, it could go really good, or I don't think that it's going to be a disaster like Jacksonville last year. But a new coaching staff, you never know in the NFL. A lot of these coaches only last 1 year, so it'll be interesting. I think they'll be competitive, and I think Wilson will be. He's going to be a top 10 quarterback easily for me.
Yeah, I agree. I have him literally ranked at number 10. One thing with Russell Wilson, it seems like happens every year. It happens with another guy we have ranked a little bit higher. But he is awesome in the beginning of the year, giving you those high 30-point games, 5 touchdowns, throwing for a ton of yards, maybe scoring one on the ground here and there. He'll give you those league-winning games for about 6-7 weeks, and then I don't know what happens that mid-season, and he just falls off for fantasy purposes. and somewhat NFL purposes, where he goes from scoring 25, 30 points a game in fantasy to he's getting 16, 14, 12, 18. I don't know what it is with that midseason drop in production, but maybe a change of scenery will help getting out of the run first system. And Pete Carroll always wanted to run the ball. There was that let Russ cook, and he was cooking, and then one bad game, and they go back to the run. So here, I think it's almost going to be kind of the same thing. I with having Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, I mean, why wouldn't you run the ball? If you run the ball, that would make your passing offense more lethal. One thing, like these guys are trying to win football games. They're not trying to win fantasy leagues. If Russell Wilson was trying to win us fantasy leagues, he'd be amazing with that receiving core. But I just wonder if he'll be able to sustain it for an entire year. I like him more than the other guys because I think he can. I think he will. Maybe not to the MVP level that he always starts out at, but with that receiving core, I think, and being in that division where it's going to be high scoring games, you got to score some points to win those games against the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Raiders. So I think he'll be passing a little bit more than he was in Seattle. So I like Russell Wilson. At his ADP, I'd kind of fade. I'm kind of more of a late round guy like you guys. So I'm not really going to have Russell Wilson on my roster at all really this year, but I don't mind him in fantasy this year. Were you about to say something, Jake?
No, I a lot of these guys now, as we get higher and higher, I just won't end up owning because they won't be on my team just because they're going to be drafted ahead of me in a lot of, the home leagues that you're going to play in. They're going to go early. And I'd rather have a running back, wide receiver, even a tight end if I can get a good one.
I agree. I'm the same way. Most of these guys, unless a miracle happens and these guys fall, I don't really see my guy owning any of these guys.
Yeah, or a smaller league. Sometimes if you get a little smaller league, then you can have one of these guys.
Yeah. Coming in at number 9, another Super Bowl loser, or the Super Bowl loser, not the winner. I won't have any of this guy at his ADP. I think he's being a little bit overrated for fantasy. For NFL terms, I think he's going to be fantastic this year. We got Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow. I love Chase and Higgins this year. I'm just out on Joe Burrow. I feel like he doesn't really have that rushing upside. I think he'll be around what Stafford does with the 35 touchdowns and a lot of yardage, but no rushing upside. And I don't know. I'm just out on Joe Burrow, especially at his ADP. His ADP right now is 53rd overall, which is in the middle of round 5. Like that's way too expensive for me. I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather a receiver or running back there. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about Joe Burrow this year?
Yeah, I mean, round 5 is a perfect spot to get your flex guy, your third receiver, third running back, however you draft. Not that I'm hating on Joe Burrow. He's got great weapons. And like you said, I think he'll be around the territory like Wilson, Stafford, Carr. Like those types of guys, if I can get Carr 5 rounds later than Joe Burrow and stack another solid receiver, I'm going to do that all day long. Not that I don't like Joe Burrow, but just too high of a draft pick for me.
Yeah, everyone loves Joe Burrow. I think it's just the only thing is the cost. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I think he could rush a little more this year, just a year removed from the ACL. But he's a guy. This is where we're starting to get into the if he can rush for 5 touchdowns somehow. And he has potential to throw over 50 touchdowns. He does, and that's it's in the upper realms of his ceiling. But I mean, he's got the best weapons in the NFL. He's a very, very good quarterback, and if they throw more, that the only concern for me is the play calling. They don't throw enough, really. Mm-hmm. There's not the volume, but maybe that changes this year. But they've got Mix in there. They've still got Pirine that they love for some reason. I feel bad for him, honestly, because now every fantasy manager mentions that run where they had him in the Super Bowl, and You try running past Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
But anyways, they have P. Ryan, they have Chris Evans. I think that's the only concern for me is does he pass enough? But yeah, he's got that potential, and I think he could rush more. He's not unathletic. He's kind of like I'd compare his athleticism maybe like a Jay Cutler. Where he's not going to run away from anybody, but if he needs to get to the sticks and he's got an angle, he can do it. So I like him, and but not gonna own him very much.
Yeah, for sure. Joe Burrow, he's like you said, he's got that MVP upside. I wouldn't be surprised if you told me, oh yeah, Joe Burrow is going to throw for 45 to 50, maybe even 55 touchdowns. I wouldn't be surprised. I would just be like, oh wow, they must have really started slinging the ball, and that's their MO. But I don't know if they'll do that unless maybe a Mixon injury or something. Then that happens, unleashes the full passing game. But for you're drafting him, Joe Burrow. If you're drafting him at his ADP, you're drafting him to basically reach that upside. You're banking on him throwing for 40, 45 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, and running for maybe 3 or 4. And I just that's way too steep for me. I mean, if that happens, good for you. Kudos to you. Your pick paid off. But where you're taking Burrow, I think you're taking him above his above what I have him slated to do, and I don't like that 53 overall ADP. But number 8 on our list, we have my guy, Philly's own Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts has top 5 upside easily, as we have him at number 8. He's got that rushing upside, like you said, running for 700 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns. Now he adds in A.J. Brown, one of his best friends, A.J. Brown. We get year 2 Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert, full offseason, finally being the starting tight end. No distractions of who's going to be the starter at tight end. Got the best offensive line in football. Got a great group of running backs behind him with Kenny Gainwell, who's a great pass catcher coming into year 2. Miles Sanders, who's coming in fully healthy for the first time in what feels like decades. And then Boston Scott, who's like Mr. Reliable back there in Philly. I really like Jalen Hurts this year. I think it all comes down to what is Jalen Hurts. Because if he's learns how to stay in the pocket, be more mobile, or be more accurate with his passes, I think he could be a top 3 quarterback in fantasy if he throws for 25 touchdowns, runs for 10 again. He's definitely got MVP upside. What do you guys think of Jalen Hurts this year?
I like Hurts. I love running quarterbacks in fantasy football. I'll take them all day. I have Hurts a little lower than you guys, but that doesn't mean that I'm low on Hurts. I love Hurts, but again, he goes in end of 6th, top of 7th round. If he can fall a little bit, maybe the end of 7th or the 8th, I wouldn't mind taking him at all. Improved offense a little bit, and hopefully he takes that stride in this next year.
Yeah, if he improves as a passer, he can be QB1 overall. I think he's got that crazy rushing upside, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't score as many rushing touchdowns this year, because he was ridiculous last year, and so I think maybe he can take a small step back as a rusher, and if he can take a big step forward as a passer, still finish as a top 3 quarterback. And he's got improved weapons. I do like Gainwell as a pass catcher. And these are guys that can get the ball in space, and usually like it's short yardage passes. So if you get a lot of quick hitters with A.J. Brown, he can take a slant 70 just like that. And Gainwell's a good athlete too. And again, he's going to be close to the line of scrimmage. Hopefully easy passes for Hurts. And one of these young quarterbacks is going to take a step as a passer, and whoever that is, they have that crazy top 5 upside.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, adding A.J. Brown and having Devontae Smith, and that he was the QB top 10 quarterback. He was awesome last year, and he was throwing to a rookie Devontae Smith. and Dallas Goedert as his number 2. His number 2 receiver was Quez Watkins, and a lot of casuals don't know who Quez Watkins is.
What about Jalen Reagor? What about J.J. Arcega-Whiteside?
Hey, he's a great tight end now. Arcega-Whiteside, we moved him to tight end. Great blocker. But now taking what he did with having a rookie receiver as his number 1 target and adding A.J. Brown and having that rookie come into year 2. And I think this may be a hot take for now, but I don't think it will be after the year. I think Devontae Smith is already better than A.J. Brown. I think Devontae Smith is one of these.
That's spicy.
It may be, but I think Jalen Hurts is set up. You can't deny he's set up to be an MVP level fantasy and NFL quarterback. It all comes down to it's on him. If it's put up or shut up time for Jalen Hurts. And,
plus 2,500 MVP.
Yep.
According to Vegas Insider. So.
Yep. And please, hoping.
They made the playoffs.
Yes.
Do you think he's going to be the starting quarterback in 2023? That's the big question with him.
I'm 50-50. It all depends on how he plays. And that's a cop-out answer. But if I'm going to say it right now, I would say no. I'm going to say no. And I think it's for most teams he would be. For a lot of teams, I think Hurts will come out, and I think he'll be a little bit better than last year. I think he'll throw probably 20 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, run for 650 yards, and run in 6 touchdowns. And a lot of teams would take that as their quarterback. I think he'll be an average quarterback in NFL terms. But
do you think he'll start somewhere?
I think he will. He definitely will start somewhere. He's not a backup quarterback in this league, I don't think. Especially, I think teams like the Texans would take him. A lot of teams would take Jalen Hurts. I'll just say that, and a lot of teams would extend him for what he wants. And we're gonna have to extend him after this year. And Howie Roseman has been the type of GM. He's a home run hitter. If he doesn't settle for average at these positions, if you're not an elite quarterback, your time's you're on a short leash here. He wants and I agree with him. I think you need an elite quarterback if you want to have a real shot at winning anything, especially over expanded time. And we have those picks. If everyone in the Eagles organization believed in him, we would have traded those 2 first-round picks next year and the 3 second-rounders we have next year to get another guy or upgrade the defense or just to do something. Go get Jesse Bates or something to shore up the back end. But we're not doing that because we're not sure. And I think if he has another average year, he's kick rocks. But yeah, coming in at number 7 to get back on track, we got NFC East rival of Jalen Hurts, Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. I like Dak in fantasy. I hate watching him play against the Eagles. He always torches us in the beginning of the year. Dak Prescott, how do you guys feel about Dak this year?
I like Dak. I've always been a big Dak fan. Personally, I've always liked him for some reason. I like him in fantasy. He usually gets the job done. He's one of those guys you don't typically have to worry about. He has that sneaky rushing upside. And just depending on where you can get him, again, middle 5th round, I'll pass. But he for sure has top 5 upside, even with Amari Cooper leaving. I do think that that offense still just throws a lot, and he's going to get the job done.
He's my number 7 overall. Cowboys are going to pass a ton. Good weapons. I like Jalen Tolbert that they just drafted. Not to mention they added James Washington. He's not nothing. He's a very good, especially deep balls, big plays. He can make them down the field. So I like him. He's got great upside. If he's the last pick in this group, I take him.
For sure. I like Dak Prescott in fantasy terms. I feel like from where he is, he's very safe. He'll get those touchdowns and he'll get the yardage. He may lead the league in passing yards again. Are you guys worried about not having Amari Cooper? that's a lot of vacated targets, and hopefully CeeDee Lamb can make that jump into being a superstar wide receiver for this Cowboys offense. But after CeeDee, it's question marks about their number 2 and number 3. I mean, is Gallup healthy? I don't know. Will he be bounced back from that ACL injury? Is Tolbert ready to be a starter? Is James Washington able to put all the tools together to be a helpful starter? I don't know if that's all there for Dak to justify his ADP. How do you feel about his core, Jake?
One guy we haven't really talked about is Tony Pollard. There have been reports of him lining up outside. Dalton Schultz, very good. I'm not in on him at cost this year, but he's an above average tight end in the NFL. There's no doubt about that, especially as a pass catcher. So, and again, CeeDee Lamb could take that next step and go into that stratosphere with guys like Jefferson and Kupp. He's not there yet. And let's talk about Stephon Diggs and Jamar Chase too. We'll also put them in that group. But CeeDee Lamb's not quite there. He could be this year, and if that happens, then Dak's going to be he could be QB1.
Yeah, for sure. Going into number 6, we got the GOAT, Tom Brady of the Buccaneers. I loved drafting Tom Brady last year. He was my late quarterback last year. He's aging like a fine wine. He's getting better. There's a stat he's better in his 40s than he's been all his entire career, and I think that will continue this season, even without Gronk. And on the fence about Chris Godwin's health. We're not sure about that. Even if it's just Mike Evans, Russell Gage, and obese Leonard Fournette running out on the field every week, I still feel confident in Brady putting up 40 touchdowns, 4,800 yards, and being a top 5 quarterback. And at his ADP, I feel like everyone's kind of just tired of Tom Brady with an 87th ADP going in the middle of round 8. I love that ADP for him. He's the one guy I would take a little bit earlier. And if I don't get Brady, then I'm going to wait on like the Cousins, Lances, and Derek Carrs. But what do you guys think about Tom Brady this year?
I like Brady. I mean, who doesn't like Brady right now with that offense? There's a little question mark, I would say. Chris Godwin, no one knows exactly when he's going to come back. So it is something to keep in mind. Russell Gage is his wide receiver 2 right now, which is a little iffy. Gronk out. So it's a little concern, but I mean, Tom Brady's been doing it for 20 years, over 20 years. Some of the years of his Patriots, he didn't have good weapons, and he's still able to get it done. He's going to get you those points. Tom Brady's a guy you can plug in every week and not really have to worry about whatsoever.
Yeah, he's my QB12. I'm the low man on him. Obviously has that upside that he can throw for 40-plus touchdowns, and they're going to throw a lot. He also, he doesn't rush at all, but he gets it down to his playmakers, whether it be Fournette or Rachaad White. They added weapons. If Godwin gets back, that's going to be a very good offense. So, yeah, if he's the cheapest out of this group, big fan. And by the way, I think we mentioned on the last episode a potential Rudolph to the Bucks. So, listen to us. We'll get you the news before it even happens.
Yeah. Quick little side story about Kyle Rudolph to the Bucks. Jeremy and I were coming home from a golf outing, and he was driving, and I was in the middle of telling him a story or whatever, and I was on my phone, and I saw that Rudolph signed, and we're in the same dynasty league, and I just stopped my story middle of it. I was like, hold on, I got to pick up a guy. And he's like, who is it? Who is it? Who is it?
Was he driving? He was driving?
Crap. My phone died.
It's dirty to do it to the guy while he's driving you somewhere, Come on now. You're in the man's car.
And the story
after that.
And then Jeremy gives his phone to the guy in the back seat and tells him to go pick him up, and Jeremy gets him because my phone died. Sorry, I got
you deserved it.
Yeah. And coming in at number 5, coming in for our top 5, we have Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. A couple years ago, he was lighting the world on fire, winning MVP. A couple down years. I'm pretty high on Lamar this year. I mean, I'm not going to have any shares of him at his ADP unless he falls tremendously, but I really like Lamar this year. A little worried about his receiving core, trading away Hollywood Brown, but I do believe in Rashad Bateman this year and especially Mark Andrews. What do you guys think about Lamar this year?
Jake and I are both high on him. Looking at our rankings, me and him both have him as our third overall quarterback. He's going to run for all those yards, going to run for all those touchdowns. And like I said earlier, I love those running quarterbacks in fantasy. You can never count them out. He doesn't have the best weapons. Mark Andrews is going to be his guy. They got Dobbins back. Hopefully that helps the run game. He'll be back soon enough. And just I trust Lamar Jackson in fantasy probably more than almost any other quarterback, and I would love to get him. I've never owned him in fantasy because he always goes too high, but, man, I would love him.
Yeah, he's my favorite player to watch in the league. Like, just in terms of just watching somebody play, not really having a vested interest, but who's fun to watch. He's number one for me. And I wanted to put him at 2, honestly. I think it's hard to take off Josh Allen after he's done it 2 years in a row as the number 1 guy. But if Bateman takes a big step, and I really like Bateman this year, and Lamar is a good passer. People still don't, he still has that kind of stigma of, oh, he's only a running quarterback, but he can throw the ball. And talk about, he's missing Hollywood Brown, but how many drops did Hollywood Brown have? Mm-hmm. So, I don't think it's addition by subtraction. I'm not going to go that far. It's going to, that long ball, whoever goes in there, Duvernay or Prochet, it's Proche or Prochet. I'm not sure. Prochet. All right. That's good. That's the cooler way to say it, I think. So Prochet, one of those guys is going to be the deep threat to replace Hollywood Brown, but Rashad Bateman, first round wide receiver, very good profile. He could be a 1,000-yard receiver this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like Lamar. I am the lowest. I have Lamar at my QB 6. Yeah, you guys both have him at 3. I have him at 6. The only thing I just like the other guys better. All the quarterbacks from Tom Brady on, I really like them all. I would love to own all of them, any of them, but I just like Tom Brady a little bit better. I mean, the rushing upside is immense with Lamar. He could easily rush for 1,200 yards, especially if Dobbins isn't ready week 1 and Gus Edwards isn't ready. I mean, they're going to roll out Mike Davis and my guy Tyler Beatty.
Tyler Beatty season, baby. Yes. I'm ready for it.
I'm huge on Tyler.
Pick him up in your dynasty league if he's on the wire.
I took him 301. 301 I took him. But, I love Tyler Beatty, but if he's out there week 1 playing 50% of the snaps with Mike Davis, Lamar's going to run for almost 85 to 100 yards and then throw for 200. So early on in the year, Lamar could be like a week winner. He may put up like 35 points a game if those running backs are hurt. So
last year he did run more because of the injuries to the running backs, mm-hmm. but he was on pace for 4,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards if he had played all 17 games. Yeah, and he'd have been the first player in the NFL history to do that. So he's a really special player, I like him, and he could be all of these guys that we're talking about from here on out. I think all of them could be QB1.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, that 4,000 and 1,000 that would be crazy for fantasy. The only thing is that ADP at the end of the 4th, early 5th, that's going around guys like a Travis Etienne, a Michael Pittman, J.K. Dobbins. Those guys, they just fill out your roster. You need those type of guys especially with the depth at quarterback. I feel like taking a quarterback this early, you need them to hit their ceiling for it to really benefit you.
And he's one of those guys. He is a game breaker, though. He could be worth a 5th round pick.
He could be worth higher if he hits his ceiling. Coming in at number 4, we have another running quarterback in St. Louis Cardinals or Arizona Cardinals, not St. Louis Cardinals. I was like, that sounded weird.
It's baseball season.
Yeah. The man who just got the bag, Kyler Murray. What do you guys think about Kyler Murray this year?
I got him as my QB2. absolutely love Kyler Murray. Him and Lamar Jackson, like you said, Jake, they're my two favorite players to watch with no rooting interest. They're just so fun to watch. He got Hopkins out for the first 6 games. They added Hollywood Brown, which we just mentioned, got Zach Ertz from late of last year. Hopefully a healthy James Conner for once. I mean, like you said, Jake, you said no one threw 4,000 and ran for 1,000. I think he could be a sneaky player to do that this year. And I love Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the rushing upside because he has dialed that back, and he's not going to do a lot of goal line work. I mean, he'll sneak him in there. He does every once in a while, just if he sees he has an angle and he can get to the sticks again. But he's a really good passer, and he's got like an alien arm. For you think about a guy that size and how strong that arm is, and the way, he already has legendary completions, and like you said, he just got paid. I love Kyler Murray. Can he stay healthy? That's the big question. He's a smaller guy, cannot take big hits. So I think we see rushing come down, but he could throw for 5,000 yards. So, and if he's still rushing for 500, it's, easy to like a guy like that.
Yeah, for sure. I like Kyler Murray this year. It's the same thing as who else did I say? It was Russell Wilson. He starts out on that MVP pace, it feels like, and then he just falls off. I mean, this year it may have been due to the ankle injury, and that definitely hurt his rushing upside. He did not run nearly as much as he did after that injury. Maybe being fully healthy, he gets back to that 800-yard rushing mark. I don't think so. I think I'm statting him out around like the 500-600 yards rushing. But if he can keep passing the ball, I mean, he added his college teammate Hollywood Brown. There's maybe 5 deep ball touchdowns. Missing Hopkins the first 6 weeks. If Hopkins comes back and he's the Hopkins of old, or still 90% of that, that's a very good receiving core. Especially who's the third guy? Rondale Moore. That's another home run hitter, replacing Christian Kirk now, and Zach Ertz is that security blanket. James Conner and Darrell Williams. That's a nice 1-2 combo at running back. So this offense is tailored around Kyler Murray. It'll be on his shoulders to see if he can live up to that QB2 that Jeremy has. But I like Kyler Murray. I have him as my QB4. I just need to see him be more consistent. And are you guys worried about that or him not being a leader or anything? Does that come in to affect you guys in fantasy at all? I know that half the team doesn't really like him as their quarterback, and a lot of the NFL Twitter is saying that the Cardinals made a mistake signing Kyler to that huge contract.
Doesn't affect him in fantasy, I don't think. He'll be all right.
Yeah.
I care about how he leads my team in fantasy. I've never had a problem with him, and maybe you kind of give him a little bit of a discount in Dynasty because of that, and knowing that he doesn't have the no trade clause in the contract either. So if he has if we see a Carson Wentz type degradation, I guess, of Kyler Murray, and all of a sudden he's playing for the Giants in 2 years, and we see the ugly turnovers like we did in the playoffs, I think that sticks in people's minds, judging him. Overall, he's been a great quarterback, and he's got crazy physical talents. I like betting on guys like that.
Yeah, for sure. Coming in for our third quarterback, coming in the top 3. I think everyone has about the same top 3, except for Jeremy. Actually, no, we don't. We don't all have the same top 3. Never mind. Number 3, we have Patrick Mahomes. He's a phenom. He's amazing. What? There's not enough you can say about Patrick Mahomes as an NFL quarterback. The only issue is, are you guys worried about him losing Tyreek Hill? Who's going to step into that Tyreek Hill role? Doesn't look like they have they got some guys there, but do they have any like alpha receivers aside from Travis Kelce? And will that affect Mahomes in fantasy this year? I personally like him. I won't own him because of his ADP, But what do you guys think about Mahomes this year?
Yeah, again, like I won't own him in any of my leagues because of his ADP. It's just not worth it for me. I think Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL outside of fantasy football. I have him at my QB4. Him losing Tyreek Hill is the reason why I put him a little below. With Hill, he's probably my number 2, I'd say, behind Josh Allen, which I had at 1. Little sneak peek. Anyways, yeah, Travis Kelce, best tight end in the league. He's still got some weapons, and even if they're not the best, he's Patrick Mahomes. He's going to make it work, and he's going to put up all those crazy stat lines.
Yeah, the big question is what's life going to be like after Tyreek Hill? He still has all the talent. Who takes that step forward with the wide receivers? Is it MVS? Is it Juju? Sky Moore is a player I really like, but I'm not worried about him. He's a top 4 guy for me. He is number 4 again because of that ambiguity. We're not sure. And I don't think it's – sometimes with ambiguity, it comes with like a lot of upside. But sometimes it's just like he could be worth what he's being drafted as, but probably not. He's being drafted at a ceiling. So
yeah, I would say Mecole Hardman also. There's a guy. He's pretty confident in himself. He says I can do that too. Speaking about Tyreek Hill, we'll see.
I'm an owner in Dynasty. He's
into existence.
No, I love in best ball drafts just getting these guys late because they're going late and they're on such a good offense. And if an injury happens to Kelce, then it's going to be a major role with Mahomes throwing it to you.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, best ball. I've been I like MVS and best ball a lot this year. Patrick Mahomes, his receiving core aside from Travis Kelce, it feels very similar to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, they both teams traded away their star number 1 go-to guy that seemed like they were going to play with forever. Both teams doing that and not really replacing it with much. I mean, I guess the Chiefs did a little bit more adding Juju. I like Juju in this offense, gives him another security blanket alongside Travis Kelce. But this Andy Reid offenses are tailored for quarterbacks. They're tailor-made. This offense is tailor-made for Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to Patrick Mahomes. He's going to go out there. He's going to throw 45 touchdowns regardless of who's out there. He's going to throw 4,000, 5,000 yards. He may throw 10 interceptions, but he's going to be out there. He's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and that'll translate into fantasy points. So I don't like him at his ADP. I feel like that's at his ceiling. But, I mean, is Patrick Mahomes, if he's on your roster, you feel good about it.
He'll have a few hundred yards rushing too. A few rushing touchdowns each year.
Yeah, for sure. Coming in at number 2, we have another guy in that division, the Chargers quarterback, Justin Herbert. How do you guys feel about Justin Herbert this year?
I had Herbert a little lower. Looking at it, I don't know why. And these top 5 quarterbacks, in no particular order. I mean, just Justin Herbert, I think, has to be in there no matter what. You guys both have him at 2. I have him at number 5 behind Mahomes and Lamar, who we were just talking about. I could easily see him being top 2 and maybe even top 1 with all those receivers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Good run game. Austin Eckler catching all his passes out of the backfield. If you have Herbert, you're going to be extremely confident in your quarterback play. Almost no matter who he plays in that high offensive division. He's going to be throwing so many touchdowns, so many balls. I could see him being QB1 if he hits that ceiling this year. And watch out for those MVP odds.
He's the most popular MVP pick right now.
Mm-hmm.
I got him earlier this year, I think at plus 1,400. He's down to plus 1,000, plus 1,100 right now. And last year he produced 5,100 yards of total offense, and that's his passing yards, his rushing yards, and then you subtract the yards that he lost from sacks. So only 4 other quarterbacks have done that. Breeze has done it, Brady's done it twice, Manning's done it, Mahomes has done it, and now Herbert has done it.
How many yards was that?
5,100 total yards, 5,100 total yards. So Josh Allen, I think, just missed it because of the sacks. If you just look at fantasy stats, he's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So special player, great offense. Love the play calling, pass heavy offense. They go for it on fourth downs. A lot of touchdowns, good weapons. That's why he's number 2.
Yeah.
All these top 6 for me, all might as well all be number 1.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of these guys, they can all be the QB1 on certain weeks. They all got that explosive ability. Like you said, Justin Herbert, he's my number 2 guy. He had 38 touchdowns. I wish he would bring down the interceptions. He's had 10 his rookie year and then 15 last year. I mean, 15 interceptions when you're throwing the ball close to 700 times is not bad. I mean, throwing the ball 672 passing attempts last year. That's unheard of. 38 touchdowns, 5,000 yards. I think he can easily up that to 40, 45, maybe even 50 touchdowns. He's one of those guys who could eat. I wouldn't be surprised if he throws 50. And he's got sneaky rushing upside. The past 2 years, 300 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns last year. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but that'll sprinkle in. That's the difference from being a QB5 and QB1, I feel like, with all these guys. But having that receiving core of Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, maybe a guy like what's his name? Who's the third guy? Palmer. I feel like maybe Josh Palmer can maybe spark a little bit in year 2. Maybe Jalen Guyton give you 2 or 3 deep ball touchdowns.
Spiller's a good pass catcher too.
Spiller,
the running back they drafted in the 4th round. He's Isaiah Spiller.
Eckler had more touchdowns than Keenan Allen receiving, which is a crazy stat in its own. But I mean, yeah, Herbert, great MVP odds, and especially in this division. This division is going to breed fantasy quarterbacks because it's going to be a slugfest. They're going to score lots and lots of points in this division to keep up with one another. So, yeah, I like Justin Herbert. Same story as all the other guys. I won't own him at his ADP, even though his ADP is a little lower than Mahomes and our number 1 guy, Josh Allen. His ADP is Herbert's is 37th overall, so end of the 3rd, early 4th. Yeah, I won't be touching him there, but coming in for our number 1 guy, it was unanimous all across the board. Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen. Is Josh Allen the safest pick in fantasy this year?
He's going to be a top 3 quarterback if he stays healthy. I mean, he's going to be safe, of course.
Yeah. And they ran the ball less later in the year, and they were throwing more. That was a big issue with Sean McDermott, and I think they're going to pass more. And he's very safe.
Yeah.
You got to have number 1 because he's done it 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the rushing and the rushing touchdowns are gonna. I don't think you should rely on those, but he's still gonna have that element of his game, and he's gonna provide that rushing floor. So, and freak arm talent. So what's not to love? Great weapons. Gabriel Davis is being drafted, I think, early 1st at this point or mid 1st. Getting close up there. I mean, so if he produces where he's being drafted at, then Allen's gonna be great.
Yeah, for sure, and still has Diggs reliable. Diggs had a great year last year, but it didn't really feel like it for fantasy purposes. I don't know what it was. I mean, he had 100 catches, like 1,200 yards, and a bunch of touchdowns. But Josh Allen is unanimous QB1. He's got that rushing upside. He's going to pass for 35, 40 touchdowns. He's going to run for 5 to 6, and he's going to add 400 to 500 yards on the ground. I think last year he topped out at 750 or something, 763. But I think adding James Cook and or Devin Singletary back into the offense wise. But Josh Allen's number 1. I won't own him because of his late 2nd, early 3rd round ADP. But he's a great quarterback, great for fantasy. He's a great player. That wraps up our rankings of our quarterbacks. Anything you guys want to say? Who's your favorite out of all these guys at their average draft position?
Let's see. Just looking through the list. I mean, I would say like the guys who we first started talking about at the beginning of the show, Derek Carr, Trey Lance, Kirk Cousins, those guys who you can get in the later rounds. That's who I'll be drafting in almost all my drafts.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, for me, it kind of depends on the league, but I like Kirk Cousins, Trey Lance. I like even the guys that are even a step below 15, even like Justin Fields. Tua has good weapons. You know, people don't like Tua. They don't, but good offense. And I like what Mike McDaniel could do there is going to be fun. Trevor Lawrence isn't gonna. I think he has a restraining order now on Urban Meyer, so they're not gonna be anywhere near each other. And hopefully, we see them produce. So I like the tier. Actually, even after this, Jameis Winston's another one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good value that you can get super duper late in a regular league.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna have to say my favorite at ADP is, like you guys said, the Kirk Cousins and Trey Lance. I really like pairing them, especially if you're at the turn in like the 9th round. Get those two at the turn. But if I'm gonna have to pick a guy inside the top, I love Tom Brady, and I feel like it'll be the same thing every year. Everyone gets a little old. They want to go with the young guys, and young guys are more exciting to own in fantasy, especially guys with rushing upside. But I feel like Tom Brady at that 87th overall in the middle of the 8th round, I feel like that's just a solid pick, which stinks because 8th round is also one of my favorite rounds for receivers with the Elijah Moore, Devontae Smith, Gabriel Davis. It's my favorite round for receivers also. So that'll be an interesting round for me in drafts.
Take the wide receivers.
Yeah, I do tend to take the receivers there anyway. So out of the guys outside the top 15, Jake, you were talking about guys lower. Who is one guy you have outside our top 15 that you could see jump into the top 12, top 10, maybe even top 5 for you guys?
I would say like an outside shot of Tua and Trey Lance, just because of the young guys who still aren't 100% proven. If they could take that step, I mean, they could hit that very high tier. Not saying I don't think it's going to happen, but yeah, if you want to take a chance on some young guys who have some real talent around them, I mean, who knows? It might surprise you.
I'm going to say Jameis Winston just because this is one of those situations where we have ambiguity and there is some really good upside when you think about the weapons with Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, not to mention Taysom Hill. You know, he's going to be his tight end now. So, but if they unleash Jameis, then he has that kind of potential. Will that happen? I don't know, but if they let him sling it, he's proven to produce in the past, and I think he'll do it again this year.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jake. That was my answer as well. Jameis Winston, I do really like him at his ADP of 158th overall. That's round 14, round 15. Like you can't really beat that, and hell, you could drop him week 1 or before the year if you don't really like it. But I mean, Jameis Winston, like you said, when he gets the opportunity to sling it, that provides fantasy points. I mean, when he had 30 interceptions, he was still a top 10 quarterback because he threw for 800 yards, it felt like, every game, and 2 or 3 touchdowns every game. The 30-30 club, only football player to do that.
He's the only football player to do a lot of things. If you on any social media,
yeah. I mean, at that ADP, if he starts slinging it and they give him permission to start slinging, you could be eating a lot of W's for your fantasy team. Yeah. Well, that'll conclude this episode. It was a great time ranking quarterbacks. Definitely a lot deeper than it has been in previous years, especially past 10. 10 to 15. There's 15 great quarterbacks to own this year in fantasy. Anything you guys want to say to wrap it up?
Don't draft a quarterback early.
It's a good way to close.
Quarterback. Don't draft a quarterback
I feel
early.
like we hit the hammer on the nail with that one all episode.
Yeah.
Anything from you, Jake?
Can't say it any better than Coop just did.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, next time we will be going over our running back rankings. So tune in next time for that. It's been great talking to you guys. I'm Steven with my guy Jake and Jeremy. This has been Ball Talk, and hopefully tune in next time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.